Listen, I'm going to tell you one more time, right? One more time, okay? Part of the problem with my people is they ass don't know who they are, so they think they everybody. You understand? Now, at the same time, everybody knows that they ain't you.
Okay, so, FaZe, I don't know how you would want to word it, but when we did the thing, the Dane Calloway thing, I want to say from my perspective, I wanted to talk about the We Not Black, We Not From Africa video. I think her name is Ariel from Georgia. I wanted to talk about that because you sent me that video, music video, and I put it on the channel. Now, you didn't tell me to put it on the channel, nothing, but I just put it on the channel. I thought it was interesting. And I agree with We're Not Black part of it.
We not black, we not black. Know your story, family history, that's stats.
We not black, that's a curse. Let's put the curse to rest and be blessed, yes. Black and white, it don't exist.
Now, I don't agree with we're not from Africa because some of us may be from Africa. So I put the video up and it just seems like the audience, our viewing audience, took it as we believe it 100%. Like, I wanted to let the viewing audience know that it was not necessarily our words.
We're not from Africa, we indigenous. I need you to listen, I need you to be getting this.
We not from Africa, we are natives. This our land, we don't know about no slave ships. We not from Africa, we indigenous. I need you to listen, I need you to...
So I talked about the video with you, and you started talking about...
So now you think that the creator that made all of this is going to take a little piece of land and say that's where we put all the people at?
No, FaZe. I'm talking about the transatlantic enslavement.
It doesn't matter about that. Listen. Let's say the first man.
Okay.
The first man ever on Earth.
And you started talking about where the first human being was. And I tried to keep redirecting it back to the point, which was the video, Dane Calloway, and that whole movement of Native American.
We're not from Africa, we indigenous. I need you to listen, I need you to be getting this.
But I was just trying to redirect it back to the point of that music video.
Okay, so I think a lot of times some things get lost in translation. When we go back to the come from, right? How can Chinese people, I'll go to each different one. Chinese people, the Chinese people that are here today look Chinese. Chinese have a certain look, right? And so we can actually say, and they can actually say, that they're from China, because that part of the land, that part of the earth is what made them. If the first creation of man was in Africa, then we could say that. But you have to call that Chinese man coming from Africa as well. Because if first man was just put in this part of the region, then when the other parts spread out, then other people had to be placed on those parts of the region. So, I never said that man wasn't created and put in Africa. I didn't say that. What I did say was that there are pyramids that, from my knowledge, predate Egypt and the parts of Africa that are here on this side of the earth. So what I did say was this: if someone is born in Africa, they carry those traits from Africa through the generations. If someone is born in China, they carry those traits through the generations. Europe, Spaniards, Spain, different Russians, all of them carry their traits through the generations. So, what I did say was this: I don't believe that the creator, my creator, just put people in one place of the earth and populated it from that. I don't believe that. Because in science, like you said, the bottom line, you will be able to trace each other to each other. So in other words, DNA would be basically the same. And so from science, we were taught that that's not true. We were taught that someone generations ago had this DNA and they crossed DNA and made something else. But you'll still find traces of that DNA that started in that place. So, the song says that we're not from Africa, we're indigenous.
We're not from Africa, we indigenous. I need you to.
So, that meaning that born here. And to me, that makes sense because that's just like the story of Christopher Columbus. So we were taught in school that Christopher Columbus discovered America, right? And then he brought his people over here. And that's what started, populated, did whatever, right? So if that's the case, who were the people that was here when he got here? And that's been the story from day one.
So you agree that we're not from Africa?
That's not what I said. I said I agree that the generations. Let's go back 500 years. 500 years ago, that generation, I believe, is from here. I believe that just like Christopher Columbus came here and he said what they say were Indians or whatever. I don't believe that they were Indians. I believe that they were us. The same ones that you said that would have been from Africa. Because the same way that Christopher Columbus had a boat and had us as navigators, why couldn't another people have that same technology and boats to cross? So even if they were in Africa, why they couldn't make a boat and come to this land? You see what I'm saying? But they'll never tell us that because they'll always tell you that we're foreign to this land. We're foreign. So foreign people don't have the exact rights to this land. And that's another reason why I was telling you before how I say that the land is owned by us. Because if we are indigenous to this land, that means that the Creator put us on this land for us. So if someone gives you something, that's yours. And I believe that the Creator gave us this land.
That's a good point. And I meant to say that in that video as far as...
What color is that?
Brown. That's a good point. That how do we know that? I guess you would say because we're brown skin.
Right.
So we know the Creator, or we think, or we believe that the Creator gave us this brown earth because it matches our skin tone.
Because it's a part of us.
Right. Now, I want to say that's ingenious, as simple as that is. And I hope more of our brothers and sisters realize how genius it is that the Creator gave us this earth, and the proof of it is that the earth is brown and we're brown. And I want to say something that I'm just learning.
We did a little bit of video about that.
Something I'm learning and I'm researching, because that coincides, brown and brown coincides with what I'm learning. They saying that certain fruits, certain vegetables, certain natural foods, the way they're shaped coincide with your body parts, the way some of your body parts are shaped. That the Creator.
A couple years ago.
I don't know if you told me that. Stop.
All right, here we go.
Just stop. I don't know if you told me that, but the point is this: that certain fruits coincide the way they're shaped. Like for instance, beets, being it's red, it may be good for your circulation, your heart. Red and round, circular. It may be good for your heart. Beets, and especially with the what you call it, looking like veins on it.
Right.
Looking like veins, red veins for your, for your bloodstream. And other fruits.
Pomegranate.
Right. Other fruits. And even like certain, walnuts, they say good for the brain.
Right.
Certain, the way it looks, the actual food, the way it looks like whatever body part. Right.
And the vessels and
right.
veins and all of that. Yes.
So hopefully our brothers could consider us being brown, like the brown of the earth, matching is all part of grand design.
Right.
So now, let me ask you this question.
Yes.
You said you don't necessarily believe that God just put man in Africa.
Right.
So you believe that God put man in Africa, in the Americas, in other parts of the world?
So, I believe, and this is what I believe, that because there's proof of it, there's proof of mountains, and there's proof of land, and the height of land and stuff, that it might have been all connected without water.
The earth.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. And so when water separated and made what is called Africa, what is called, these different
the continental drift.
Right. So I believe that when he did it, there wasn't nothing that was called Africa. We named that.
Okay, so right, it was one landmass.
Right.
But you don't believe God put one man there?
I don't believe, no. I don't believe, because, see, this is what I don't understand. If he put one man there, then we would all have that same DNA. So because that man, because of what we know now, today, we know that a man has to be with a woman to have a child, right? So when that man inseminates, into the woman, and the woman lets the child out, that baby has part of the man's DNA and part of the woman's DNA. And that's what that baby is. Now, when that baby is able to get a woman and make another child, then that baby is going to have that man's DNA and whatever woman he has DNA. So he's going to have those two DNAs in him and another one.
So you believe that you believe that God put different types of man all over this landmass?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
One thing I wanted to add, as far as what you said about brown on brown, brown skin, brown earth, it seems reasonable that God gave the brown earth to the brown man, right? But what I was telling you is that as far as it's still all about who got the bigger gun, because even within, if he gave, save your right and exact, the Creator gave There's brown earth to brown man, right? We know that there's different tribes and nations of brown people. Now, what determines what part of the earth each brown tribe get? They're gonna have to, unfortunately, either fight for it or whatever for it. It's who can kick who ass, man. Bottom line is who can kick who ass. They're gonna do something for it.
Well,
and that's why I said who got the bigger gun, who could beat who.
And you know, survival of the fittest is a good way to put it. Right. But you also have to think about this. I can't, and I fault us, but I don't fault us. We have given hearts. We do. And I don't know if we were, I don't think we were born into that. I think that amongst time that we had to adapt and we had to settle for. And so, you know, I believe that we settle for more than what we should settle for. And we shouldn't settle, period. So I believe that the pink people persuade us into giving up our rights and our ownership of our land. I believe that. They persuade us, just like you know, education. You know, how we were taught education. You know, Black said it better. He said, you know, we've been lied to. We've been bamboozled.
We're not from Africa. We indigenous. I need you to listen. I need you to be getting this.
We're not from Africa. We are natives. This our land. We don't know about no slave ships. We're not from Africa. We indigenous. I need you to listen. I need you to be getting this. We're not black.
The Native Americans versus Africans, like where do we come from as far as, you know, our lineage? Where do we descend from? Like I said, from my understanding, we're a mixture, a combination of both. A lot of this stuff, you know, it was human trafficking, and I don't think they kept records of who was who, and they may have some records, but our previous videos, I learned where you coming from. You know, you said that from your understanding, you believe in the Creator God. And that God didn't put man just in one place. He didn't just put him in Africa. He put him in different places. Now, you do agree that the continents was one at one time?
Of course.
Okay, the nation of gods of earth, they say that, from my understanding, they say that one landmass was called Asia, and that the man walking on it was the Asiatic black man, which is really a dark brown man, but that's what they say, Asia. I don't think you give a name to the land. Do you give a name to the land?
Well,
what the name was?
No.
But I want to get it. But I don't want you to. I want to keep going. But do you give a name?
No.
Okay. Now. Okay. So I learned that you say that God put a man in Africa. He put a man maybe where in Americas. Did you figure that out? Like where?
Yes.
Okay.
So the land mass in a whole
right.
would not make any sense. And if you go back to what we were just saying about how it was just one land mass or whatever, right. It would not make sense for 2 people to be here and they had sex with each other and made the rest of the people.
Okay.
So that would not make sense at all.
Okay.
So wait a minute. If that happened, then I'm sure we would all have the same DNA.
Okay, I don't dispute that, so I'm not going to challenge you on whether it was 2, 4, 5, 6 people that God made. I'm not going to challenge you on that.
So that
my thing is this: the transatlantic enslavement. Right. So from your understanding, human beings was living in Africa. Human beings was living in what they call the Americas. Human beings was living all over landmass, not just one landmass.
Right.
Okay, now, what about what they call slave ships? Does that mean that there wasn't no slave ships? Are you saying that they did not bring people from Africa to the Americas?
I'm not saying that at all.
Okay, so they could have.
It's a very big chance, a big
So
possibility. that
your
they could
ancestors, your direct lineage, you in particular, could have came from Africa.
have. It's a possibility.
Okay.
Because now this is my thing though. So if we're going back to the beginning, right?
We're not going back to the beginning. We're going back to the transatlantic enslavement.
Okay, and
The movement saying that we're Native
the reason
Americans.
why I say that, go back to the beginning, is because if say the maps were turned around and all of that, someone had to name that certain place Africa.
Okay.
Someone would have to say that this is Africa.
Okay.
Okay? So now, just because someone thought to make a boat after the water separated the lands, doesn't mean that because it started there or it started over here, that's where it goes back to. Doesn't say that that's the first place. So my people could have been placed here.
Right.
And so what is
But
Africa?
I don't think most of us in this day and time, I don't think we're disputing that. Whether
Okay,
or not
but that's why you say
we
so.
could've
So
came
then
from
why would you
America.
ask me, do you think that you're from Africa?
Right, I asked you, is it possible that your lineage could have came from Africa?
But it's possible. Everything
Right.
is possible.
So it's possible
because
they
we
could
don't know.
Right, it's possible they could have started here.
Right.
They could have been here, or rather.
Right, right.
And it's possible they could have been
So
Africa.
it's a possibility
Right.
that they were placed here,
So now-
and not in Africa.
Right. So now going back to that song, if you listen to the words of the song, they said, "We're not from Africa," as if they know.
If we're not from Africa, we indigenous. I need you to listen. I need you.
How do they know?
Because of what they are.
They think.
No,
They believe.
Right, they believe.
Right.
And,
Okay.
and the reason why I say that they would believe that is because of all the tricks
Right.
not to
Right.
believe that.
I get it. So that's
so-
my only point with the whole video. That is a belief that you're not from Africa.
Right.
You don't know.
And it's a
for
belief
fact.
that you are from Africa.
Right, because unfortunately, I want to say this. That, I think that maybe the transatlantic enslavement was exaggerated. It could have been exaggerated because they say it was like 100 million of us. But then again, it could have been 100 million of us because you got to think of Brazil and all these places that was, they still got ports.
But at the coast of Ghana are a number of ancient castles and forts, marking the beginning of the slaves' perilous journey during the era of the slave trade. These fortresses were the last memory the slaves had of their homeland before being shipped off across the Atlantic, never to return again.
This is actually the youngest as well as the smallest of the 3 castles built along the coast of West Africa. But then we say that this is the biggest slave castle. It's the biggest slave castle because it was built at the time when the transatlantic slave trade was at the highest level. So the dungeons here were actually built much bigger to hold about 1,500 people at the same time. Well, the people that were brought here were not all from Ghana. They brought them in from several parts of Africa. But the biggest number came from West Africa. And they had to walk from wherever they were captured, either tied up or in shackles and chains. They find themselves here in Cape Coast Castle in particular. Before they send them into the dungeons, each group of Africans that were here were owned separately by lots of British companies. So the companies will then put metals with their initials on them into fire. A tense where they pull it out. Before the metal goes to any part of the human body, they smear that part up with oil before they brand them. After branding them, they will send them into the dungeons where they stayed at least 2 weeks or 3 months, waiting for the arrival of the slave ships. Now we are in the male dungeon, starting from here all the way down to the 5th room. The whole place took about 1,000 black men. 1,000 black men, mathematically we will say that each of these rooms held about 200 people.
we walk through the door of no return. At this point, it was a heavy moment for me. But what is being done to ensure that this heritage is never lost? Sebastian, my tour guide, told me that routine checks are frequently conducted on the castle to ensure that it is always in shape and never lost.
Do you know that they have the what they call slave ports?
Yes.
I don't like to say they were
They
slave
have one in
because,
Virginia.
Right, but they have them on the west coast of Africa. So
The majority of African captives were exported from the coast of West Africa, some 3,000 miles between what is now Senegal and Angola, and mostly from modern-day Republic of Benin, Nigeria, and Cameroon.
say that they were sending people from the west coast of Africa because they got dungeons there where they said they were sending them.
Okay.
You know that, right?
Right, and so now listen to this. How do you know that those dungeons were for that purpose?
Well,
You don't.
well,
How do you know that the
I
pyramids...
think it's reasonable when you study it.
Okay, right. So everything is reasonable if you think about it. The pyramids that are on this land here, it's reasonable to believe that that's where the first beings became. It's reasonable to believe that. But this is the part that during my research, I found out. So let's say one person was from Africa.
Okay.
And they were brought from Africa here to the Americas.
Okay.
One person.
Okay.
Now, they had their language, their tradition,
Okay.
their culture in Africa.
Right.
When they got here, how could they translate their culture to someone here? Especially when they were not taught this English language, this English thing, and especially when it was forbidden for someone to teach them.
How could they understand the languages? The Caucasians knew the
No,
languages.
that's not, no. I didn't say understand. I said take their language and say, okay, my father is such a person. And you come to here where you can't talk to no one that's from Africa, that's from your part of where you speak to.
The Caucasians knew some of the languages.
How did they?
Because they was doing trade before they started the slave trade.
Okay,
They was
so-
doing trade with the Africans.
So say that's true.
Right.
Are they going to tell the people that are enslaving you, are going to give them their history to where they...
No, of course not.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to
talking
say.
About how did they communicate? They probably communicated because, from my understanding, the Caucasians, they was previously already doing business in Africa,
Okay.
what we call Africa,
Okay,
with
so
the tribes.
So
right,
fine.
Right.
So they were doing business, right?
So they knew some of the lingo. They knew
Right.
some of
So-
the...
So they
yeah.
knew some of the lingo.
Right.
What does that have to do with their culture and saying they're
Right,
not?
they didn't teach them their culture.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's we all know that.
All right. So if we all know that, then how can we break down the lineage and say that it came from here to here to here to here?
We're not from Africa, we indigenous. I need you to listen, I need you to be getting this.
Right, and that's the point of the song. The song says we're not from Africa, we're from America. How do you know that? That's my point. They don't know. They believe that, and that's cool if they want to believe that. I'm not trying to change their beliefs, but for our viewers, I wanted them to understand where, we may differ with that song. You know what I'm saying? I may differ with that song.
Right,
know
you
what I'm
may,
saying?
and
Right.
the reason why is that you is different from what I say that it is.
You believe in that song 100%?
Yes, and I'm gonna tell you why I believe in 100% is because so far in my years, all I have seen is where this country wants us to believe we're foreign. this country, now, no matter how you slice it, whatever we were taught were by people that was not us. Whatever our government was is from people that are not us.